Hello, welcome to Amateur Radio in the 21st Century. My name is Ralph Iden, and my amateur radio call sign is WB9ICF. Amateur or ham radio has existed since the early 20th century, and like many of our modern technologies, has significantly evolved over the years. In the late 19th century, amateur telegraphers began setting up their own private wired systems using Morse code. After Marconi demonstrated that radio waves could be used for wireless telegraphy, things started to take off. The interest in this new technology led to rapid expansion, and many thousands of transmitters were in operation by 1910. This became a problem for commercial and military radio systems. These homemade transmitters used simple spark gap designs that sprayed their signals across a wide part of the radio spectrum, causing interference. Because of this, Congress passed the Radio Act of 1912, which restricted private or amateur stations to frequencies 1.5 megahertz or higher. That's near the top of our current AM broadcast band and above. These frequencies were deemed useless at the time, and the number of radio amateurs in the United States dropped by nearly 90%. However, radio amateurs, the experimenters that they are, set out to overcome the challenges of operating on these useless bands of frequencies. Today, there are around 3 million licensed radio amateurs worldwide, with over 760,000 in the United States. In the early 1900s, a typical amateur radio station would be a spark gap transmitter, like shown in the photograph on the right. A high voltage spark is generated inside a globe on the right-hand side of the table. As years went by, vacuum tubes replaced the spark gap. The result was better performance, greater reliability, and vastly greater communications distances because it was discovered that signals on these previously useless frequencies could bounce off the ionosphere and could be received around the world under the right circumstances. The photo on the left is an example of such a vacuum tube-based amateur radio station. By the way, WB6ACU, that's the amateur radio call sign of musician Joe Walsh from the Eagles. Joe is active and a vintage radio collector. With the invention of the transistor, radios got smaller and became more portable. This made it possible to take amateur radio to remote places such as Pikes Peak, Colorado. In the 21st century, software-defined radios are the next big leap forward in technology, with the ability to adapt to new communications mode simply by changing how the signals are processed using the software. Full-featured radios are also highly miniaturized and can be taken almost anywhere. This handheld radio is about a third of the size of the one that I used on Pikes Peak, but with loads more capabilities. The Raspberry Pi Whisper transmitter has transmitted over 1,900 miles using just a piece of wire for an antenna. Building and homebrewing is another very popular thing that many amateurs do, and it is definitely something that I particularly enjoy. Amateurs have played significant roles, directly or indirectly, in nearly every major technological advancement that has been made. When natural disasters or emergencies occur, amateur radio operators are often the critical first communications link. When Hurricane Maria hit Puerto Rico in 2017, amateur radio played a vital role establishing communications on the island as well as between the island and the mainland. Many amateurs are part of weather spotting networks here in Lake and surrounding counties, and we provide communication support for things like the Chicago Marathon. Many people in the maker community are also licensed radio amateurs, such as Lemore Freed, Jerry Ellsworth, Becky Stern. By the way, Becky has posted a few instructables about amateur radio, including one in March of 2020 entitled Getting My Ham License. Amateur radio provides one outlet for my creativity in making and provides endless opportunities for me to learn new things. So perhaps it may appeal to you as well. So let's hear from Doug about a recent project of his.